Hey guys, in today's video we'll be going over basic control flow with if statements in C++. Start by opening the CPP project folder and then the main.cpp file within that folder once again if you already haven't. If you have the code from the last video, just delete everything except this. If you don't have the code from the last video, simply type this code in. Now to cover the new topic. After the age declaration line, use the if keyword. By the way, a keyword is a reserved word that has specific meaning in a programming language, followed by a pair of parentheses to begin an if statement. Inside the parentheses, type the statement age is greater than or equal to 18, a statement that will be evaluated as true or false. After the closing parenthesis, open up a pair of curly brackets. On the next line inside the curly brackets, type in stdcout, you're an adult. Now, of course, we know this message will print because we hard-coded the value of the age variable. But let's say the user isn't guaranteed to be above or equal to 18. Well, then we should have another message to tell them they aren't an adult. On the next line of the program, after the closing curly bracket, use the else keyword. Keep in mind that else doesn't accept a conditional statement, and it only runs if the other checks in the statement all turn out to be false. Open up another pair of curly brackets and then start typing the output message, you are not an adult, inside the curly brackets on the next line again. Once again, to summarize, use else as a fallback if the rest of the checks in an if statement fail. Keep in mind that else isn't always used, and in a lot of programs, if checks turn out to be false, we simply continue without a fallback, but the reverse is also very common. You will have to decide when to use else in your programs. There's one more thing to cover in this section of the video, and that is else if. Else if is like the initial if in the sense that it values a conditional statement, and is like else in the sense that runs the previous conditional statements before in the if statement are false. Keep in mind that you can have multiple else if blocks in an if statement, but only one if block and one else block, though no one will like your code if you chain a ton of else ifs together. Simply control X the else fallback code. Don't worry, we'll put it back in later. This just makes it easier to type in the else if block, and then add an else if statement after the closing bracket of the first part of the statement. I'm not going to explain the syntax again because you've likely gotten that down. Inside the parentheses, type in the conditional statement, age is greater than or equal to 13. Inside the curly brackets, have the output message, you are a teenager. Now you can paste the else block back in. Keep in mind that order matters in if statements. If we checked if age is greater than or equal to 13 before if age is greater than or equal to 18, that would be quite wrong, as the second block in the if statement would never be able to be evaluated. I now recommend running the code and changing the age variable after each run to see the if statement in action. Now for the next section, which will just be a list of comparison operators, operators used to compare values to see if the conditional statement is true, you will need to know about. These operators include double equals, not to be confused with single equal, which is for assignment, not equality checking, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, greater than, less than, not, which is just an exclamation point, and not equal to, exclamation point equal to. There is another type of operator called logical operators that aren't used for comparison, but rather to allow conditional statements to handle more complicated logic. We'll cover those in a later video. Keep in mind, when using Boolean variables in if statements, you can simply just use the Boolean variable's name inside the parentheses to check if it's true, and you can use exclamation mark before the Boolean variable's name to see if it isn't true. This is possible because Boolean values are already true or false, meaning that it is necessary to check if they are true or false using double equals true or false, respectively. Just a nice little trick. That about sums it up. To recap, the syntax for a block in an if statement is if slash else if slash else followed by the conditional inside the parentheses, unless it's an else block. And the code to be run if the conditional is true inside the curly brackets followed by the next block in the if statement. You make it that way. Remember, if is the first block, else is the last block, and else if is the middle and or last blocks. Note that not every comparison operator we talked about works on every data type. For example, greater than or equal to doesn't work on STD string as far as I know. So keep that in mind as well. Make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Till next time, bye.